Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about something that I don't think I've seen anyone else really bring up in the Legends community directly as a concept on its own, and it's something that's pretty much been here with us since the inception of the game, and it's a pretty fundamental concept that I think exists in, I would say, I don't know, 95% of all video games, and that concept is design space. Now, I'm not a game developer, but I have played an awful lot of video games in my life, so I've experienced design space related issues in the past. With other games, but just to summarize what I mean by design space, it's essentially the degrees of freedom that the developers have to experiment with certain mechanics, new units, or anything really new that they want to introduce to the game. So in Dragon Ball Legends case, I'm going to specifically be talking about design space limitations that are introduced because of certain decisions that have been made in relation to character kit design. So this is talking about the units in the game, nothing really outside of that. Now, what does that mean exactly? So let's start with probably the easiest to understand example of a design space limitation that a certain character introduced to the game a long time ago that we still feel the effects of to this day, and that is Blue Bardock, our friend Blue Bardock over here. So everybody sort of knows Blue Bardock as the leader of the Super Saiyan team. He has sort of been the I guess the pinnacle of, or I guess the foundation of what that team was ever since this guy came out. And once this guy came out, people started running this team because, you know, there really isn't a lot of units that individually buff the team. Take a look at the actual tag here, the Super Saiyan team. There's only 5 units in the entire game that buff the Super Saiyan tag, but Blue Bardock provides a way for your team to seamlessly work together without there being sort of a common Z ability on the same team. I mean, you could just make a Saiyan team, obviously, and they could all be buffing each other, but they're all Super Saiyans and stuff, but without having a common Z ability in Super Saiyans, like, this portion of his unique ability is able to just provide such a massive boost to the entire team that you sort of forego needing anything specifically there in terms of the Z abilities. So I think that this is probably the most easy to understand example of a design space limitation because of the fact that we just got this guy's Zenkai, this purple Broly Zenkai. Now, it's very, very apparent that they were, you know, considering that this was going to be his main team, the Super Saiyan team, when they were designing this Broly. I would actually say that this Broly is pretty underrated by the community in terms of his Zenkai. I see a lot of people saying he's awful, he's terrible, he is not even worth summoning for, blah, 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 which could be the case depending on your situation. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that it's 100% worth summoning for him, but I'm going to tell you he's definitely not bad. He's definitely not awful. He's definitely not super underwhelming or anything like that. Him on this team feels perfectly reasonable to me, his power level. But in terms of him being good on really any other team, like I used him on movies, I used him on Powerful Opponent, he doesn't really feel that impressive. And it's very apparent that they took that into consideration with this kit because the power level that he displays on this team is so overwhelmingly higher than the power level he displays in his other teams, and it's because of Bardock, because of this buff right here. So the reason why this is not really a great thing for the game, I don't think, in the long run, and I'm actually very, very surprised that they went ahead and Zenkai this Blue Bardock when they did, is because now, whenever they release a Super Saiyan character to the game, they're going to have to be very careful with how they design that unit because of the fact that they have to consider that this is what they're going to be getting from this Bardock. So if they're going to be getting this buff from this Bardock every time that they're switching in off of this Bardock, like, that's going to be a thing that they need to consider in their design. And that's why it's limiting, because this specific design itself is too big of a factor in the back of their minds. Like, every time they make a Super Saiyan character, this has to be the first thing that they're thinking about, right? Like, how is this going to impact them? How is this going to impact the new unit we're creating? So I think that's a limitation that it probably shouldn't exist, but at this point, it's been in the game for so long that they're probably not just going to nerf this. So every Super Saiyan unit moving forward is going to have that same sort of thought process as they design them. And then something else to bring up as well is that this Super Vegeta, right? This is a unit that has the only Z ability in the game that buffs crit damage for Super Saiyans. That's pretty ridiculous, because the whole point of why this guy's ability is so powerful is because of the fact that it buffs crit damage. Yeah, the critical rate is good, the damage itself is good, but this is the real reason why it feels so oppressive to use this character, is because of the critical damage. When you land a critical hit with this Bardock on your team, and any other Super Saiyan character on your team is landing crits, and you have this Vegeta, not this guy, you have this Vegeta, no, sorry, this Vegeta on your bench, it's because he's giving this extra 25% critical buff. There's no other unit in the game that does this. This is the only unit in the game that gives critical damage as a Z ability. And there's a reason why they haven't done that again. It's because they realize that it's just not a fun thing to do. Like, it's not fun to go into the match and two-shot somebody because you crit and you have this buff applicable. So I'm actually kind of surprised they ended up Zenkaiing this character, but it is what it is. And I think, again, this is probably the biggest and easiest to understand example of a design space limitation. So this game has a lot of different, I guess, examples of design space limitations in units that have existed for a very long time. And I feel like when you're talking or thinking about units that are probably not going to be getting Zenkai Awakenings anytime soon, these units that have very inherent design space limitations are the ones that you probably won't expect to get Zenkai soon. But at the same time, I say that, and this guy got one like very early compared to the rest of the game in terms of Zenkais, so there's really no telling what they're going to be doing here. But for example, this future Gohan, this is the only unit in the game that can give card draw speed to his allies. Now obviously you have to pay a big price for it because he has to die for this to activate. So I mean, he's giving you card draw, he's giving you key recovery and strike damage forever. There's no limit to this at all. So I think when you're thinking about who's going to Zenkai, like a character like this is probably not going to Zenkai because of the fact that he's already providing something very unique that no other unit in the game can do, right? And I feel like that's going to be a similar theme that we see throughout the rest of this as we go through all these other units that I have pulled up here. Like First Form Frieza, right? People were saying how they thought this guy was going to get a Zenkai. I mean, yeah, they did sort of pseudo-tease him in that video where they used this guy, they used the yellow Frieza, and then they used the red metal cooler. So, I mean, there was sort of a hint there, but I guess it ended up not being a hint. Again, I don't think this guy needs one, but the reason why I don't think he needs one is because of this blue card. Him holding a blue card is, in a sense, a design limitation in itself, because we take a look at the Lineage of Evil team, which is his main team. The fact that he holds a blue card and the fact that he's probably going to be included on most, if not all, iterations of the Lineage of Evil team means that they can't go ahead and then give, you know, one of these new, let's say they create a new Lineage of Evil unit. The first thing they're thinking about in the back of their minds in terms of a design perspective, or a balancing perspective too, is, okay, well, how is he going to work with LF Frieza with his blue card? We can't make his blue card too good, otherwise he's going to be able to use he's going to be able to use 2 times as many blue cards as any other unit would on any other team because of the fact that the main support unit on this team holds a blue card. So that in itself is a design space limitation. And because of that, I don't know if they're going to go ahead and Zenkai this character anytime soon because of the fact that that is something that's going to be present even without him getting a Zenkai. So if he did get one, I mean, that would just solidify his spot on this team as a mainstay even further than that. And I feel like that would be an even further hindrance to the design of this team moving forward. So we'll see if they do end up giving him a Zenkai. I don't think they will anytime soon, but again, it's this guy got one. So at this point, we don't know. The same thing can be said for someone like Whis. Now, Whis is an EX, and I guess we can sort of talk about in the same light as well, the Deborah and Ginyu, because they both hold green cards as well. And then same thing with this Frieza, we have like Red Hercule, Sparking Hercule, and the Bunny Bulma who hold blue cards. But the difference between Whis and Frieza as compared to those units that I just talked about is that these are actually good characters. Like Ginyu, Deborah, they both suck. Bunny Bulma and Hercule don't really work with anyone else in the game. So, I mean, Bunny Bulma can work on female warriors, but you're not really going to use Bunny Bulma. But a character like Whis on God Key is an extremely powerful unit, and the fact that they actually gave him a green card to hold, I mean, you would think that they would go out of their way to make other God Key units' green cards not be as powerful, and I feel like they did that for a little while. We'll go take a look at the God Key list right here. So let's pull up God Key. So before, like, when the God Key was young, because Whis came out and God Key didn't really exist as a team at that point, but we had, you know, Red God Goku, we had Yellow God Vegeta, we had Beerus. We soon got the first anniversary where we got Blue Goku and Purple Vegeta. So Whis came out obviously during the first anniversary, and I feel like the reason why they gave him a green card was so that he could work really well with this Blue Goku to give this team a boost, because the team, again, didn't really exist up until that point, and they wanted to give it a kickstart with that. Because Blue Goku's green card is exceptionally good, and up until that point, God Key, he had easily the best green card on the team. So you take a look at everyone else on the team, and they didn't really have a great green card. And I feel like it wasn't until they started making units like this Gogeta or even UI Goku where they started really, really pumping up the effectiveness and power level of these green cards on these God Key units because of the fact that Whis existed. So that is a design space limitation for this unit as well. Okay, so next we have some characters that have not gotten their Zenkais yet, and I feel like they probably are specifically avoiding them due to one specific aspect of what they can do. And we have green Bardock, we have the yellow Gohan, we have red Vegito, and we have blue Ribrianne. So obviously it's very apparent to people who have played the game for a while, but the main reason why I don't think these characters have gotten their Zenkai Awakenings yet is because of the fact that they can lock you in for 10 counts. Just, you know, there's no condition to fulfill for this. The only thing you have to do is wait for your main ability to come up, which is 15 counts for this guy. Gohan transforms and locks you, have to wait 15 counts. Vegito, it's 20 counts actually, it's a little bit higher with him. And Ribrianne's is 25, so it's a lot longer for Ribrianne's, 10 seconds longer than Bardock and Gohan's. But the main reason why I feel like this is a limitation, this is more so of a limitation on why I think they aren't going to be getting Zenkais, rather than limitation on other aspects of the game in terms of, you know, new characters coming out and stuff like that. This is a mechanic that I've felt since this came out, you can't play around this. Like, there's no counterplay to this mechanic. This is like the only mechanic in the game where you actually feel helpless against, because, you know, let's just say Gohan, right? Gohan comes in, he transforms, and you're locked in. Like, how do you counter that? You have to get him into a combo and just waste time, or do like there's no way to actually physically counter this unless you can read them switching into the character and then switching out before they can activate their lock-in. That's really the only way you can counterplay it. But once it's done, you're basically screwed for 10 counts. They can rush you, they can do whatever they want with you for 10 counts. So I feel like because of that reason, this is a design space limitation that's specifically related to themselves. So again, not a limitation where they're going to be like, okay, well, we can't release X or Y character because this exists. No, it's a limitation where they can't probably Zenkai these guys right now because it would just be too oppressive, and it's simply not fun to fight against. Like, nobody, when this Gohan released, nobody enjoyed fighting against Gohan. It just, you know, he had this, he has the green card where it's just like, you know, press the button and you instantly have a combo going, that kind of thing. Red Vegito I feel like is probably a less of a concern for most people, just because of the fact that he's not a unit that's designed to do a lot of damage. But now that we have somebody like Vegito Blue in the game, you could lock somebody in with Red Vegito, start a combo with Vegito Blue, and because he draws cards by himself, you can hit somebody with like 7 cards in a row while they're locked in. They can't switch. So that's also a concern, I guess. But Ribrianne as well, I mean, she draws an ult in addition to locking you in, which is something that neither of these other characters do. So that's also a concern for her. That's why hers probably requires that you wait a little bit longer than the other ones, but that's a design space limitation for them. And I feel like they've realized that since they've released these units. The last unit to come out that's had a lock-in like this is this Gohan. I believe this Gohan was the last unit to have a lock-in like that. Since then, they've done other things with locking, namely this, you know, green Trunk that's come out. The way that his lock works is whenever you switch in with him, he locks you for 2 counts. So it's going to take like 1, maybe 2 cards if you don't sidestep of hits before you can switch. They did something similar with green Metal Cooler, where his green card, I think, inflicts you with no switching for 2 counts. So, I mean, there's sort of modern ways that they've adjusted this mechanic, but again, because of the fact that these units sort of existed back in the day where this wasn't a huge concern, you know, the battle system was different, the meta was different, the power creep in the game was different, them receiving a Zenkai and bringing them up to modern standards would probably mean that these units would inherently be worse across their entire kits besides the main ability, because of the fact that this does lock. So that's a design space limitation for themselves. Alright, so I think we're just going to go through the rest of the units that I have pulled up here. I don't want this video to go on forever, but these are just more examples of units that have parts of their kits that can be limiting in terms of future design of other characters. Like this Cell, obviously we know at this point he's in like every match. The biggest thing about him is the fact that he essentially has 2 health bars, and not like Endurance where you can nullify it and you can play around it. You can you know, there's a lot of moves and stuff that nullify and stuff like that. This Cell is guaranteed to survive when his health reaches 0. He transforms into Perfect Cell and then he becomes a monster. So this is a unit where, again, the same thing, actually it's even worse, I would say, than the locking mechanic units, is because you could think about like 2 years from now, maybe even 3 or 4 years from now, you could be running a future team, a regen team, an android team, and this guy could still be useful on those teams because of the fact that maybe he's doing horrible damage at that point, maybe he can't tank at that point, but he is a Rising Rush sponge. He completely nullifies the Rising Rush. So if you're able to use him in a way, even again like 3 years from now, where you can just throw him in, sack him into a rush, and all of a sudden you have transformed into a better version of himself, and your opponent has one less rush that they can use in that match, like he's done his job. So I feel like in terms of them releasing more units with a mechanic like this, they've seen how powerful this is now. This is, I think, sort of their initial test. This is why they made this first form of him so weak. Like, look at his defenses. Horrible. It's like literally hero level defenses in this pre-transformed state. The reason why they did that is because I think they were probably pretty scared of what he could turn out like, and he turned out to be pretty damn oppressive in the meta right now. He's on like every good team. So, you know, I feel like they're going to look at that and really take that into consideration if they ever decide to do another kind of unit that's like this. Next we have Picon. It's kind of a weird thing to have him on here, but he's sort of in the same boat as this Green EX Super Vegeta, where they both have an ability to reduce the opponent's Vanish to 0. Obviously, it's only one time they could use this, so it's not something that's going to be super oppressive in the meta at all. But it is something to keep your eye on, because this is something that I feel like they would only give to a unit like Picon, where he's not going to be on that many teams, he's not going to be seen that often in PvP, he doesn't have that many tags, he's not really the best unit ever, he was released at a really bad time where Vegito Blue was the best unit in the game, so people weren't really going to be spamming Picon, you know, in PvP. And I feel like this was a pretty decent way to experiment with an ability like this, because it's very annoying to fight against. Imagine you have one unit left alive and your Picon destroys your Vanish, then Rising Rushes you. Like, what do? You actually, there's again, it's sort of similar to the locking ability. There's zero counterplay to that. You can't do anything against that. And then the same thing with the Super Vegeta. The Super Vegeta, I would actually say, is a little bit more oppressive than Picon, just because he has more teams. He's probably a better overall unit than the Picon is. His Z ability is pretty good. I mean, Picon's Z ability is pretty good, but he actually applies his Z ability to a team or tag, not just a color. This combos really well into the blue card. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know if they're ever going to do this again. I feel like if they were going to do this on a character, Picon is the character to do this to. I don't think they're going to release a unit like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta for the 3rd-year anniversary and give him an ability that reduces enemies' Vanish to 0. Imagine that happening every game. It's just not fun to fight against, so I don't think they're going to do that anymore. And then just quickly, we're talking about some very, very, very bad units that have some broken abilities. Like this Hero Hercule, we all know what he does. He inflicts poison and paralysis to the entire enemy team up to twice. So this is a unit where he literally himself, and oh yeah, by the way, he also locks. So I guess when I mentioned the last unit that does that is Gohan, it actually is probably Hercule. So again, I guess latest unit to have this ability. This guy, just imagine this ability and this ability was on like a very powerful sparking unit these days. Like, they would be a must run on almost every single team. This guy is literally useless, other than the fact that he applies these things just for existing. So again, they're not going to do that for a unit that is actually like really, really good. And the same can be said for this red sparking Hercule as well. This is like the most broken blue card in the game, very, very easily. Shortens eye sub count by 10, and it's unlimited amount of times. Granted, it is a lunging forward attack. This guy's like the worst stats in the game or something. Actually, it's better defenses than Red Cell, but offenses, they don't even exist. Look at the little graph here. So a unit like this, he also holds a blue card, by the way, so similar to what I was talking about with LOE and LF Frieza. But I mean, this Hercule has like no teams. He's on literally no teams. He's not on a single team. Cell Saga, that's the only team he's on. So very specifically did this for a reason, and same thing with the Z ability as well. -3 to the cost of the blue card. There's no way they're ever going to make this character good. I don't think there's ever a reason to ever Zenkai this. I don't think they ever will Zenkai this character. And then I guess something similar that you could say at the same time is I actually forgot to pull these guys up, but Namek Goku and IT Goku, it's the green instant transmission Goku. They're probably never going to create a Saiyan unit that holds a blue card, just because of the fact that it would work way too well and be way too oppressive with those units. And then you could say something about IT Goku not getting a Zenkai. I remember people were speculating about him getting one, and me and like a few other people were just like, there's actually no way they do that. People would just quit the game. Like, he would just be way too oppressive. And yeah, we could say the same thing about when Namek Goku got his. but they barely changed him. And I guess, you know, there's something to talk about with him with Bardock as well, because he's Super Saiyan. But and the same with IT Goku as well. Imagine if IT Goku and Bardock were together on a team, and IT Goku was Zenkai, and you had like another Saiyan that held a blue card. Like, it would just be ridiculous. And these are the reasons why they don't do that, is because it's too limiting, right? They're gonna give this blue card to a unit like Hercule. They're gonna give the fact that I don't know, you can paralyze every single unit on your enemy team because it's a hero unit with like the worst stats that ever existed in this game or something like that. They're going to give the ability to reduce Vanish to 0 to a unit like Picon. But it's, you know, when we get to units like this, you know, or like this that are actually good, or even like Future Gohan, who's not bad, he's obviously aged a lot, but that are not horrible, where it's like, okay, now we're starting to think about what these abilities can, you know, sort of what implications these abilities have on the future design of characters. And that's, I think, a problem that they haven't really done too bad of a job with. I think the biggest mistake that they made was probably giving this guy Zenkai when they did, or even at all, to be honest. But it's something that they should definitely continue thinking about. And I don't know if they're going to change any of these units, but these are sort of like the quote-unquote problem units in the game without really being a problem themselves. It's just sort of indirectly hindering the future design of characters that might not be revealed yet. So that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed a bit of a different video today. I just wanted to see if you guys were interested in this sort of thing. So I will see you guys all in the next one.